welcome to a new episode of the Advancing Consciousness series with Franco. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. And if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as the most recent, Actualizing Beyond Your Current State to Live Your New Reality, along with our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As more of us are coming together and creating a shift in oneself, the more effective it will be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of this change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
So welcome to another episode of Advancing Consciousness series. And today we get to play with episode 78, and we're looking at the illusionary game. And we're talking about the illusionary game of life. Now, in addition, we also will continue with some questions to give us the opportunity to be able to address some of your concerns at this time. We're doing everything possible to assist you through this beautiful transition, because right now there's so much going on. It is so intense at times, especially lately with these stronger energies that have been really cranked up. And of course, we had some really powerful bursts on the 15th that started a few days before and has carried over, and it's just going to continue to prepare us to go into another sequence at the beginning of June. For the people that have in one way or another not decided if you're going to join us at the Sology Fest, it will start on the 28th and go into the 29th, 30th, and a bonus on the 31st. If you're feeling drawn to that, in the description you will see the link for you to be able to get to the page where you can register and participate. Now, I know people that are traveling internationally may not be so easy to get there, but if you're in the United States, it is easier to move around from a lot of the things that they've relaxed. But anyways, we hope to see you there. I'll be one of the guest speakers, and I will do my part. I'm speaking on each and every day, I think, for a little while. And there are so many beautiful, powerful people that are coming together, and also all the people that are going to participate. They'll make it even more powerful. Anyways, so let's get to play with today's topic, illusionary game. Now, what game are we talking about? We're talking about the game of life. Okay, we are playing a game in life. We forget that. We get lost in the game. We go through all of these beautiful, interesting sequences and whatever else. But that was kind of part of parcel of the agreement that we had, to get lost in the game and not see it as a game. But now we're starting to realize more and more, because of the fact that we are going through what people call an awakening process, and that is reawakening to see things for what they are, to see it as a game, to see yourself as a participant, to see yourself as more than your physicality, more than your experiences or anything else. To see yourself as this sourceness that has come here to play. Now, you all have come here to play. What does the play give you? Playing gives you the opportunity to have experiences you couldn't. No matter where you go, what playground you play on, it's always an opportunity to have an experience that each and every planet that you choose to incarnate in, each and every form you choose to incarnate. And then, of course, it's not only just the form and the playground, but also your role that you take in and also where on the planet you choose to enter, who your parents are or what the connections are and so forth. All of it is part of the staging. So here we are. Let's talk about Earth. This is what we're here to play with right now. So you decided to come here. You decided to lay out the whole thing to come and have a very unique experience with the knowing that we were going to go through this powerful transformation. Doesn't matter how long you've been here and or not, or meaning that you've been here for a short period of time or a longer period of time. It doesn't matter because you came in exactly the timing. Now, each one of us not only came here to have the experience, but each one of us are a contributor. You do not enter on the planet no matter what unless you are contributing in one way or another. Even if you're holding space in the polarized world for a period of time or throughout the whole history of this journey of when you've arrived. But each one is creating a stage. Each one has a very unique frequency, and each one is playing a role that actually accelerates what we're going through right now. So why are we going through all of this? I've talked about it many times. It's because now it's time for the upgrade, time to really shift into our design with many, many upgrades, many more advancements than we've ever had before. And this is the thing. So now, with everything that's playing out, with the intensities of all this playing out, we can really stay lost in the game. What's happening, who's playing what roles, what regulations and rules, what restrictions and so forth, which is basically everything that we are looking when it comes to the systems around us. And also many of the role players, the majority of the role players, are still projecting very much so that inverted matrix, that inverted world, that inverted 3D, 2D state of play. Now, that is all playing out, yes, because all of it was constructed in that fashion. Even the originators that put in are no longer participating, but we're all still, in one way or another, getting caught up in it and still playing with it. But that also gives us the opportunity to push us for saturation first and foremost. But the next level is to realize that, hey, the game does not need to be played the same way. And then you could take an active role of changing the game. But the game changing starts with you because you are the one that's going through the changing. Yes, you may have taken on whatever you've taken on. You've attached yourself to anything that you've chose to play, but at this point in time, you know, you are actually stepping up into something very different than what you've played when you entered. It doesn't matter the circumstances, the situations, whatever mapped out where you are today. You are here exactly where you need to be, but you're also realizing that now it's time to step up even further than what you've already have. Now, some of you have started quite some time ago, some a few decades ago, some only a few years ago, some only a few months ago and days ago, or whatever, that already you're starting to, you know, redirect yourself. But the redirection really takes us to be able to purge most of all of the stuff that we've adopted from that inverted world, that inverted way of life, and all the systems. Again, right now, all the systems, all the structures, authorities, and whatever else we want to talk about it, all the different organizations and everything else are still very old reflection of that inverted world. That is shifting. It is shaking up and whatever else. But it's really us on the forefront to do the changes. Did you want to say something? Nope. So it's really us that are doing the changes right now. And this is why it started with us right from the beginning. And I've talked about the stages we've came in and all the different levels. And of course, we are on phase 3 right now. On phase 3, of course, going into 2021, it's gone to what we can call steroids, meaning that it's really accentuated even further. And as we continue to move through the year, it's going to continue to accelerate, but also at the same time intensify. But that intensification will only be for the people that get lost in it for a period of time, only for them to break out and say, okay, I'm not supporting the old world, I am now bringing that new world through me. Of course, each and every one of you are birthing, each one of you are unpacking this so-called new world. This new world is actually the true playground, the true video game that we are playing within our lives. And as much as I said illusionary game, it is illusionary on several levels. It's illusionary altogether regardless, because everything in existence and everything that we play is illusionary. However, we brought in another level of illusion where everything is actually so far out of in its even form that it makes it even more unreal of sorts. Now, realism doesn't exist unless we apply realism, but at this point in time, we are living that world. And we're going to unpack what that looks like and what is required for you to shift every part of it. Okay, so that's, I'm doing something a little different today, so it's all right. Okay, so let's get to play. This time I got a remote that I can change it rather than trying to move it with my hands, just to make it easier. All right, so I get to not have to do this too many times. Okay, so the illusionary game, continuing with questions. So let's look at the illusionary game. This is first and foremost. As I was saying, there are many levels of illusions. Now, the deeper you get caught up in the illusion, the more you feel that whatever's around you actually has control over you. It actually becomes solid. It seems like it's unmovable. And this is what a lot of us are experiencing, that whatever we have around us is all there is, that we have no say on how it moves or changes or anything of that nature. That in fact that we've entered here and it's all fixed. And it's not only fixed, that the others have decided how the game was going to be played. It is not a game that is flexible. That's the illusionary part, that we are unraveling. Everything is a creation. Everything is an experience within that creation, as spirit, as source itself, which you all are. But at the same time, we're dissolving the first level of illusionary, that everything is mapped out and you have no say in the matter. And that whatever is already there in so-called authority positions are the only ones that can change anything. How many of you felt that, hey, the system is going a certain way, government's a certain way, all of this stuff, that we have no say in changing any part of it, that we're always pushing and pushing and pushing for things to change and expecting someone else to change it. So that's one of the levels of depth of illusions that we are dissolving. I know a lot of you are awakening and coming to that realization, but at the same time, there's something else going on around that. The other part is that when we are playing this game at this point in time, it seems like, yes, we may have some say in this, or we start to see the game, we get lost in the whole idea that the game is rigged, and it may look that way, and that we, in some way or another, are subject by the games and the rules there. So, in fact, we really don't have much say in the matter. And the fact is, when we start to realize even that part, before you transition even further, you now start to see the polarization. The good, the bad, the right, the wrong, and all of that stuff, light and dark. We start to see that. And then what happens? We go into a deeper polarization where you start now demonizing each other or having righteousness of sorts plugged in and so forth, and feeling that now you have to fight the systems, you have to fight others and so forth. And that is another snare of that illusion that we go in. And I know the last episode, if you haven't watched it, it's worthwhile watching, in episode 77, that we talk about the true power of pure love. Because when you get to a certain level of awareness, you are no longer seeing polarity. You see role players playing polarity, but you don't see the polarity as good, bad, right, wrong, dark and light, and so forth. You see it as a beautiful dance, which when you're using that pure love, it merges all of it and dissolves it in a way, or blends it to create that holistic part. It doesn't mean you dive into one and then the other. It's a matter of just seeing it and not giving power to that. And that's the next stage of that illusion that we dissolve. So we're an illusion of a sleep, that everything is dictated and we have no say in the matter. We come and go, and then, nothing happens unless, things change or the playground changes to the point of seeing it and seeing unfairness and so forth. But then the next level, seeing the appreciation. But when you get through those illusions, now you see the next level, which the next level you say, hey, wait a minute, I am one of the co-creators here. And in fact, I am fully in charge of how I design my world, how I see the big screen or the bigger part of what we call the world, how I interact with other people, how do I connect. It is all part of you that you start to realize at this point in time. And that realization actually creates a powerful shift, because now you can get into the driver's seat. Now, to get to that point, you're actually going through an awakening process, but part of the awakening is unraveling and purging your old you, the parts of you that you have identified, labeled of yourself. It is all your programs and belief systems and stories and so forth, which may have brought you here where you are today, but it's not serving you any longer. So that realization starts to come in, and you're okay letting it go, not because you see it as anything wrong or a mistake. You just let it go because it no longer serves. And that's really how it works. And that's what makes it easier for us to move through it. So this illusionary world, yes, look at everything that's happening right now. Okay? It looks like there's this horrible thing that can kill us. Then we have to do something else. And we don't have freedom. That other people have actually authority over us. In fact, that we have no rights and anything of that nature. That is that level of restraint and illusion that is not true. And we're going to play with all of that as we go through it. Okay, so our illusionary game of life, let's use the purple, of life and how it has been running our life. Look at our world. Look at ourselves. Let's say ourselves. This world that you're looking at, how much of it is running your life? That means it's catering to your choices or shaping your choices. It's actually allowing you to feel restrictions and limits and so forth. A lot of times you say, well, it's not running my life. Look at it. Observe how much infiltration you've allowed in yourself to be able to run your life. That means the systems run your life, the people that are in so-called authority positions run your life, who you interact runs your life, everything runs your life. Now, you may start unraveling yourself from that, so that not everything runs your life. But the thing is, many of us, which is part of the process on perfection, have adopted all of this to do what? Really just to give us the opportunity to be able to see this illusionary component for us to move forward. And also being driven through it, meaning that our life is shaped all around that. It's not outside of it in any way, shape, or form. that is what you're looking at. Okay? So the question you ask yourself, how much of my life is dictated and run by the game I see around me, by the playmates I play with, by the choices that I've made at one point or another that is still intact, the story we've taken on that I really had no say. It's worth looking at that, because that will uncover how much invested energy, time, and so forth in whatever's around you running your life. And like I said many times, and I said it earlier, is that if you want to create a shift within yourself, you have to detach yourself. And when I say detach, is not to use as a guide what the game around you is serving, displaying, presenting, whatever you want to call it. It is not any of that at this point in time. It's really about when you're looking at all of this and how it's all playing out, you're just seeing how all of this is unfolding around you without getting lost in that component of it. So when you start to notice more and more of it, it's not about getting angry about you playing and adopting that illusionary world as something real. It's to realize, oh, okay, I really stepped into my role. I really acted out in a fashion that really, I took the part. And I was on the main stage of that part. And I played it stellar. It was amazing, whatever we've played. But that's the thing. We're shifting away from that. And not because there's anything wrong with any of it. It's because we're free from it. Done with the whole experience. So, taking a look at how much does my world actually run my life. It limits me for my choices. It limits me what I do and don't do. Because when you really look at it and you go beyond the illusion and you hold a certain particular energy, it changes everything around you. How things affect you, what actually steps out to play a role with you or not. That means even the people that are going to play a particular role in a certain state, they're no longer playing the role how they would play with others or how they've played with you before. This all changes. You have so much power, so much capability that it is mind-boggling on what we are capable of doing. And this is the realization that we're having now. The planet is not fixed. The game of the human experience and Gaia is not fixed. It actually is pushing so hard to break out of those patterns and those denser energies, those polarizations through the disconnect, so that there's a reconnection. It's like what we've experienced for so long now, for over a year, where we couldn't come together with other people, and then getting the opportunity to come together with other people. It is that embracing, that such a level of appreciation, and so much is being shared, not only from the experience energetically and otherwise, and that is what Gaia and our true nature is wanting to embrace us, to bring us back into that whole experience once again. I know it's been a long time that we've played the disconnected game, that we have played the game of separation, polarity, and so forth, with the game that we were away from flourishing and being our true self, is losing ourselves in a fictional self. And that's what we did, is a fictional self that gone beyond the disconnect of what our true nature was, in an illusionary game that actually had layers and layers of it, which we're now unraveling. Okay. I'm going to take this out. Okay, most certainly we've agreed to play the game, to gain a unique experience. And it's true. We've agreed to come to this planet, to play this game, to go to whatever level that you chose to do so, to get truly lost, to truly feel the separation, to truly feel what people call alone, to feel that in some way it was not right or not beneficial for you to be yourself. To play the game where there were so many levels of restriction, so many levels of programming requiring, so that you got less and less of yourself being expressed. And that was a unique, so we gained a very unique experience from that, which you could not do elsewhere. Okay? Because here it's very unique. We have free will, sovereignty, and then play a game that would show none of that. And when I say free will and sovereignty, this is very unique, especially the degree that we have here, even though we haven't been exercising to the degree that it actually works. Because in other playgrounds, there is less wiggle room, a lot less wiggle room. In fact, you step in there and the agreement is that you don't get to use what you can call free will to any degree. Coming here, you get to use free will, but at the same time, we have a lot that is directing us how to play the game and really how to use our free will. So we're in a free playground, but then we're convinced how to use our freedom. And that's the beauty of it. Very unique. And getting a deeper understanding of the game. Many of us want to understand this game. Some of you have come here to play a very specific role through the transformation. You came here to redesign, upgrade, and be part of the new human evolving. When it's new, it's the original design 10x, meaning that it has evolved powerfully once it's back online, and that is happening right now. And also to come into the game and to transform the game from the original to the inverted to a bonus, super elevated original with that level of freedom to use everything at our disposal. So you came to here to play the game, to learn from the game, to get a deeper understanding of the game, and also understanding of the human participants, the human path, so that you would be able to see it, get a deeper appreciation, and go through the process of changing it, upgrading it, and so forth. Many of you got lost so much into it. We all have, to some degree or another. It doesn't matter if you were a starseed, if you were an indigo, if you were, what do you call a crystal kid, if you were here, came in as a multi-dimensional being of sorts, because all your souls are anyways, but, took on, the rainbow roles and Blu-rays and whatever else that you've taken on. All of you have come here to play those roles and got lost in the role for one reason, and that is to get a deeper understanding so that you had a good handle how to do it and then be able to do it. So now you're stepping up in a very powerful way to be able to change this with also a full skill set within yourself. Now, many wanted to not only have a deeper understanding, but also wanted to achieve a certain level of appreciation of one versus the other. So meaning, I'll play this to get a deeper appreciation for this and then go into that other part. See, the thing is, we've all come here to be ourselves, but we also knew that possibly we wouldn't be able to, and not that we weren't able to, that somehow we can get easily lost in the game so that we wouldn't be ourselves. Now, I'm not saying everybody, because there's a lot of people that have been, and a lot meaning it's still a very small percentage, have been themselves from day one. And as much as they were playing in the game, they didn't let the game run them. And that's the beauty of it, not allowing the game to play them. So that's the part. Now, once you've gotten to the deeper understanding and had your unique experiences, you're now taking an active role of transforming it. because now you have a deeper understanding. You could see how it all works. You see how much you can implement when, your positioning of your role, and the energies that you would be able to apply in whatever's going there. But not only that, many of you have chosen to be even a powerful conduit, allowing these energies, these codes to come through you, so that it is not just pure raw codes, it is going through you, which you add your human experience to it, and I'm talking about it in a more pure state, and then transmitting into the field. Because when you have energies come through you, or certain people, then it is encoded in a language of sorts, and I'm using this as an analogy here, a language of sorts that other physicalities, other playmates can better understand it, can better relate with it, that can actually take it. For example, just to throw in an analogy on computers, when you run a certain program through some converter or somehow running it through a software that allows it to make it compatible, it's still raw data, but it's just tweaked a little bit different, so it becomes more compatible to be used throughout the computer, throughout all the other programs. And that's what we're doing right now. So some of you are opening up portals, some of you are creating alignments, some of you are just the conduit of information, conduit of energy, or whatever. There are many, many different role players throughout the world playing out whatever role that they chose or agreed to come and play, but also to be a facilitator in such a fashion. So that you can take an active, not only an active role, because pretty well everybody is active no matter what, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but take an active role of really being the instrument of change that's going on. All right. So the time has come where we realize that the game have been playing no longer serves, and is slowing down the process of our true nature and emerge, the true nature to emerge. So when we're looking at it, okay, we're coming to a realization. Many of us have been coming to a realization for quite some time. We are realizing that the game has been no longer serves. Everything has serves. One way or another, doesn't matter when you came, what got started, it served. You didn't take on any role that did not serve one way or another, either for you personally, but also collectively. Now, of course, it's hard to separate and say it was just personal, because anything you do personal affects the collective, or at least most closely to the people that you're interacting with, or the area that you're involved in. But the game of that inverted world has gotten to a point it no longer serves. We are realizing that. It's like, okay, this density, this slow movement, this backwardness was fun, but it's no longer serving. It's time to shift it. So that's what we're doing. We're realizing it no longer serves, and it has been slowing our process of our true nature to emerge. So now we're looking at the game and say, okay, do I need any more part of it? Can I saturate myself if necessary? But at the same time, realizing that everything around you is reflecting parts of you that are done with, and you're moving through it. Not with judgment, but with ease. And that's the thing. So you're wanting to emerge, to unpack, to be the one that is actually bringing to the surface this new version of human experience and playground. And again, as your DNA comes back online, more and more, you'll notice more and more information, vibrations, encodements, and so forth that are coming through from all the different species that were contributing. All of the other alignments are occurring, and many of us have already been utilizing a lot of what that the activation of the DNA codes and the changing of the genetic genetic encodements and so forth within ourselves to be able to be much more powerful in playing out the roles that we are. So this is the thing, is the time has come. We are realizing it. Okay, great, it was fun, everything else was perfect, but now it no longer serves. So what are we going to do? Move on to something different. So our role of transforming the game has been stepped up. Many of you have noticed. You've noticed not only an urgency, okay? Because some of you have been feeling an urgency. Urgency is kind of polarized too in a way, but it's not that. We've been feeling it and knowing within that it's time. Now, in some of you, I've noticed that the game has no interest anymore, the old game. You're also seeing that the old game doesn't feel natural to you. Not that it ever felt natural, but it feels even more unnatural. You also sense that there's something that wants to burst or birth from you, and that is that true you. That is the new, upgraded version of the human experience that does not put power into polarization, separation, or anything of that nature, is no longer in survival, does not play with fear anymore. It is playing in flourishing and expanding. And many say, okay, well, fear plays a role. Yes, it does. But is it our natural state? No. Is it natural now? It could feel that way because of the fact that we've always used it for so long. But the thing is, it's natural as part of a progression, but it's also a restriction. So to realize the two components of it and say, okay, what really works here? Do I still give power to fear? Because in most cases, fear actually paralyzes us. All right, so we've been feeling very strongly to step it up. It's getting harder and harder to ignore it. It's getting harder and harder to say, you know, I'll wait it out. Look at every burst of energy we come in. What is it doing? Not only is it accentuating, say, physical symptoms and the changes that are occurring, your preferences, your so-called tastes and interests is changing. The energies are increasing your vibration, and guess what? All of the lower vibration labels, definitions, and patterns and so forth are being brought up to the surface even more as we keep going, further and further. What's that? That's the stepping up. It's saying, okay, it's time to purge all of this older world and bring that new world in. That means the new you. So we're feeling it. We're feeling it. We're knowing it. It's growing within us. More and more. Because we have a new world game. An updated version of ourselves that is ready to be expressed. We have many versions of ourselves. The one version that we have paid the least amount of attention on is our true version. It's the highest version, which basically takes the human experience, whatever its experience, and its sourceness blended together. That is the part that sees exactly what? It's the game. Let's play the game. Let's upgrade the game. Let's create an environment where we can enjoy the game at another level beyond what we've played up to this point in time. So this is the thing you're looking at. So when we're looking at it, we're updating version of ourselves. What does that mean? First of all, we're dissolving all the versions that no longer match. The highest version of you is updating anyways. Because the game has changed. The game has increased. Everything is shifting around to bring us to a whole new level so that is being updated. That version of you is being updated. Some of you have said, I don't even recognize this version of me because I've never got to experience it. Well, if you look at it, that part of that version before the upgrades were what you came in with. You didn't get to play with it too long because you were kind of open to suggestions on how to play the game, and you created multiple versions. A version with your family, a version with your friends, a version at school, a version in the work world, a version with your other associations and so forth, and the version that the world gets to see within all the different systems, because there are many versions within the systems. So we're dissolving all those versions. We're bringing in the highest version of you, which is basically non-polarized, purely, full spectrum, that is here to redesign this whole game we have of life and yourself at the same time. So this wants to be expressed, ready to be expressed, ready to be expressed. And many of you have noticed that, and you already are expressing it in a more powerful way than you ever have before. All right. Everyone has come here to play out a role in this human playground game and transformation in one way or another. All of us are here to play. See, all of us have come here to play here and to play a role. The thing is, our roles are changing and have been changing. What role you played with, and we play many roles, because we have played roles with family, we play roles with other connections and other communities and environments and so forth, right? So we came here to play the human role from the old design, and now we're transforming it one way or another. All of us. You can't turn around and say, okay, these are the participants, these are the role changers, this is the one that's redesigning, and then the rest of them are just the background. Okay? They're never going to do anything. They weren't even meant to be anything. That's not how it works. Everyone, doesn't matter who's on the planet right now, doesn't matter what level of polarization, what old system or whatever system that they're playing out, they are still contributing. All of us are contributing. Now, their roles will change, and maybe their involvement may not be required any longer. Until it is required, and they're still playing a role. So it's not outside and saying, well, okay, all the so-called light workers or all the awaken, are the active roles. Yes, you're taking active role moving forward in a faster pace, but the thing is, for a larger percentage of people to be involved, or other aspects of yourself, those polarized roles are still involved, and they're involved to push to the degree so that you free yourself, and many more do so. Eventually, they may either join or decide not to be part on this play. So everybody, doesn't matter, because I hear this a lot from people that say, well, I'm not doing anything active. I'm not, I'm watching stuff like this or whatever it is, but, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Well, you are, because first of all, you're going through a change. The energies that are moving through you are also being transmitted. Okay, whatever interactions you have, it could look like a small little interaction whatsoever, is already very powerful in one way or another. The fact of feeling that I'm too old, too young, too this, too that, because I can't do anything at this point in time, or whatever the idea is, that's not true. We're all playing an active role no matter what. Now, some of us may feel, or a good portion of us may feel, that to step things up even further and say, okay, no more just playing that little bit, let's bring it even further and play a bigger role, put more emphasis on whatever else. Because a lot of times people say, well, if I'm not out in the public, or, I'm not, fighting or making a statement or something like that, I'm not doing anything. Well, that's not true. But at the same time, if you feel that within yourself, and when I say feel that you need to be doing that because that feels compelling for you, then do so. But also realize you don't want to get into the polarized part, because that can be a real little trap to get caught in. And when I say trap, it's kind of a, sticking yourself in the mud and whatever else. It's going to be a lot harder to move through it. And that, if you need that experience, great, have the experience. But if you don't, why give power to that? So, we've all come here to play out a particular role, no matter what. There was no accidents, no introduction of anything that did not serve one way or another. It doesn't matter how dense or how high vibe, it all served. Now, of course, the lower, denser energies no longer serve, because we are all choosing to play a higher vibe experience. So it doesn't matter what level of the spectrum anyone is involved in, they are part of the transformation. So my point, to to expand a little further, is that in one way or another, everybody's participating in the transformation, regardless, even when they're playing the most intensified polarity. Look at the world right now. How many leaders, how many so-called authority figures or whatever else that has been playing a particular role on the game right now. Okay, you could say, well, okay, those are the denser people, those are the people, whatever it is, and in some way or another, they're actually impeding us. Well, that impediment, what looks like impediment, is actually giving you more power to override that, so you become actually stronger and say, okay, that is no longer, doesn't matter how it's spewed, how it's constructed, I am choosing to still step into my most higher state of being and transform whatever may be playing out within you. And in the game of life, or what we call the game, the illusionary world. All right? So everybody's involved, no matter what. Nothing is outside of it. That's the beauty of it. Okay? We will look at the so-called, okay, so now we're going to look at some of the different things that we have made from illusionary to real. Okay? So the very first thing, and I'm going to go through it very quickly, because I realized that we wanted to get to the questions. Really? Okay. Gotta love that woman. Tries to keep me in check here. All right. So we're looking at so-called authorities. All right. So part of the illusion, moving out of the illusionary game, we get to see. All of us will get to see at one point or another, if you are choosing to really be able to move forward, you're going to notice that all so-called authorities are illusionary, meaning they're not real. They're projected as real. They're projected that they actually have authority over you, that they are the only ones that can design laws and rules and ways of life. That in one way or another, that you are subject to them. That's a beautiful, powerful, polarized illusion. But coming to the realization, you're free. Nobody has authority over you. It doesn't matter how many restrictions they impose, unless some of us or people reinforce it and say, yeah, we got to follow the rules. Those rules mean nothing, and never did and never will. And if we enforce it, it's still illusionary, because it's not real. We're not on the playground that so-called authority figure or whatever it is to mandate how we experience life. That's not on this playground. There are some playgrounds that do. But we bought into the whole thing, because from the original design, that was never, ever something that was to be introduced. In fact, it was never programmed to be part of the experience. It was only when the inverted matrix and all that stuff was put in and the inverted world started to project that now we created what we can call authority, what's the other word? Hierarchy and so forth. There, meaning authority and less authority. Or the fact that if you have money, you have power. If you have knowledge, you have power. Or if you, in some way or another, in a particular position, now you have power. Or the fact that you came, from a privileged family, that you have power. And that you have you have a new separate set of rules, and at the same time, you dominate the playground. That was just part of the experience. We've agreed to expand it and play with it and so forth, but that is it's not real and never has been real. So it doesn't matter if you're a king or queen or president or a prime minister or this or that or authority in whatever area, it's not real. Those are just, it's like make-believe. you go play in the schoolyard as kids and you say, okay, let's make believe. You play this role, I play that role. That's so we can play the game. Then once the game is played, you go back to wherever you wanted to play. So if you're going to play cops and robbers, for example, then one plays this role and that one plays that role, can switch it back and forth. But those are just roles. So we bought into the idea of the role that in one way or another there was authority figures and so forth. So now to realize in the illusionary world, it doesn't matter what anybody says, unless you agree, unless other participants agree that it doesn't have any power over you and never will. Now, once you come to that deeper realization, you can now learn how to manage, or in this case, activate within yourself how you move through all of it so that in fact it works for you. Now, we may choose to still have part of that active because you're kind of creating a bridging effort. So meaning that you say, well, here's freedom. You got freedom, and here we have, what do you call, restrictions. That could where there's the black. Okay, so you're saying, well, we're in the freedom and we're in restrictions. So you're going from restrictions to the level of freedom. But most of us have to go through the different stages of realizing and taking the steps across the way to get to that point where you are experiencing that freedom. Because some of us don't believe that. Many do not believe that we actually have freedom. That in fact that we are in charge of how we design our lives and how we design the playground. And that is because of the heavy, heavy conditioning and the heavy, heavy role-playing that we had, that we adopted it as real. And now that's kind of in a reversal process. So as we're going through all of this, we're noticing that we're dropping the so-called different authorities and so forth. So those authorities no longer control you to the degree that we may have experienced before. You can see it as make-believe. Oh, they're sitting in that position. They're saying whatever. Now, if you notice, the ones in authority position are acting out in such a fashion, especially now, and this started some time ago, but it's actually more accentuated. It's like spotlights are on it, that whatever role they're playing seems more and more what we can call ridiculous, seeing that in fact they're unstable, that in fact they're making unreasonable, if you want to call it that, because we create certain levels of reasoning, unreasonable statements, actions, and so forth. You were going to say something?
Someone's asking, but how others decide to follow the rules shapes available opportunity.
What's that again? Sorry?
So how others decide to follow the rules shapes available opportunity. So kind of shapes. So if there's a mass amount of people following a certain rules a certain way, then it impacts everybody. Like how, this is what they're saying.
Yes.
Do you know?
Yeah, it impacts the opportunities around you at this point in time because many are supporting it. But the thing is, you choose not to support it, you don't give it any power, and that already starts to create a change, because whatever you choose in this state of freedom is way more powerful than any level of restrictions that could be applied. The thing is, the trick in all of this is that we see the restriction and we believe that the restriction has power over us or power over the collective or anything of that nature. And then, of course, we go into that. And now, yes, you could say, well, a lot of people agree to this, but you choose to, hey, that is, you have free will to go have whatever game you want to play, you want to experience, but I'm not going to support that. Now, are you going to still be in certain barriers? Yes, to a certain degree. But as you're, that's why I'm talking about the bridge, as you're going from shifting away from whatever the collective of that unit that you're talking about, that a lot of people are supporting, and you're starting to see yourself free from that state, it's actually dissolving a lot of that, and there may be still levels of restriction across the board until you get to that level of freedom, and then that actually comes out of the equation totally. But the thing is, that level of freedom that you're starting to experience as you're stepping away from it, it's actually creating an opening for others. So you're making a path for others to be able to do so. So even though the collective or a larger portion of people are supporting it, they're also starting to, they're going to start realizing more and more, because they already are, but more and more that we don't have to follow. And the fact of not having the so-called authorities govern everything. You've probably noticed in certain parts of the countries, in different countries at this point in time, as they're going through shifts and more people are stepping up, even the so-called police or different authorities are backing off from playing a very restricted role. It's almost like we're not going to cooperate with whatever the authority is because it doesn't make any sense. That was not so much the case before, but now it's becoming more and more. In fact, wherever there's gatherings of people that are saying no more lockdowns, no more this, no more that, are, you know, they're backing off, unless there's rioting, but they're backing off and allowing them the freedom, even though they may not be following certain rules. And a lot of them are not even choosing to support the rules. So a lot of that is shifting. But in some cases, you know, you're going to go into areas where it's going to be a little stronger. So it's a matter of feeling that freedom. Yes, so it's a transitional component that we're going through now. That's really what you're noticing. It's the transition. But if you stay true to yourself in the sense of realizing it's a transition and you start taking the steps along the way, you will get closer and closer to experiencing what we call the freedom. But as you're taking the steps, you expand even further. So the so-called authorities are all illusionary. Rules. What are rules? What are laws? They're made up. All of it is made up. Please realize this. You don't have to. It's your choice. When you realize it's all made up, then you can have a different appreciation for it. And when I say appreciation, you can see it in a different light. It no longer is restrictive. First of all, if you actually had to agree to apply a law or a rule, okay? It is not by some authority saying, this is the new law, this is the new regulation, this is the new rule. They could say whatever you want. But the thing is, it always has to be introduced to the collective and say, this is what we want to bring in as a law and a rule. Why? Because this is what we're seeing. And we're still in transition, so people are not prepared not to have certain rails or guideline of some sort temporarily. But the collective has to agree to let that be applied. And it has to be in review along the way, meaning that it's always checked to see if it still serves or not. It's not I apply a law or rule and it stays that way. Well, there may have been a reason for it and we had to agree upon it. So most of all laws and rules we have not agreed upon. Yeah, maybe we consented because we decided to support it, and the consension is saying, well, they have the rules and authority, but it's not true. It's not. Okay? So keep in mind, it's all made up, and all of it changes. Even this whole thing with, being owned by a bank because you have a card that says you have a signature or SIN number or whatever number, it depends on where you are in the world, saying, yeah, now I'm a corporation and stuff like that, and now we have to reverse that whole process. Well, if you really look at it, it's fictional. But we've agreed to accept it and say, well, it's in power. Like even the courts have no right for any of that stuff because it's all made up, but we've given it power for a period of time, and that's all transforming. Now, of course, yes, part of the transition is some of these rules may have to apply, and we may agree to keep some of it in there in place while we're going through the transition because some people are not used to not having rules yet. Go ahead.
Jane is asking what has happened to Canada because the illusion of restrictions is so strong.
Yes. See, one of the things about the so-called Canadians, they've been passive. And they just need a stronger nudge. So let's clamp down, make them see that they're in a prison. Okay? Some countries, you know, they're in jail. So here you are. I'll just use a different color for now. You're in the jail. And you only have so much wiggle room, if you want to call it that, a movement in there. And realizing that you're in jail. But a lot of the Canadians have felt that, hey, you know, I'm okay with this. You know, I'm okay for it for a little period of time. And, you know, I'm not giving it too much power, whatever it is. You know, I'm appreciating that it's beautiful here. It does this or that. Yeah, it may be cold in the winter or whatever it is. But so what's happening? All these restrictions. First of all, it's showing that certain authorities, or so-called self-assigned authorities, because that's what it is, and it doesn't matter if people say, oh, we went through the election and that's who they won. It's still fictional, because in fact, that was organized in such a way so that they would be able to get in there, and even though they weren't being so transparent, but you know, we accepted that, that's fine. So what's happening in Canada? We are making the jails smaller, and smaller, and smaller, coming to the point of saying, hey, wait a minute, no more passiveness here. And I'm not talking about fighting here, but I'm talking about saying, hey, wait a minute. We didn't come here to play the game this way. It doesn't matter who you are, what you say, what you do. We are not supporting this. We're done with this game. So for a lot of the Canadians, in this case, they need to be pushed harder only to the point of saying, enough. See, in certain places, enough was easier to achieve because they also realized that that's not how the game works. Yes, we may have adopted the idea and so forth. So this is why you're seeing the lockdowns are different in different parts of the world. Some are more locked down, some are less locked down, some have no lockdowns or haven't had any right from the beginning. Why? Because they felt, hey, we don't need to do this. And it doesn't matter what this whole thing was about or what it represented and so forth. And I know a lot of people get caught up on the idea of whatever it is and what power it had and how we could exterminate people and so forth. I mean, I'm not even going to go into those details at this point in time because I've covered it here and there. But at the same time, realizing that, hey, yeah, as Canadian, we needed to be pushed even harder to the point of saying enough. And in fact, that you're also seeing examples in other countries that, hey, wait a minute, they've got out of jail, or at least their jail expanded. Hey, we're not going to play this game. Eventually, all the jails have to dissolve because that's not supporting us in any way, shape, or form. And this is what we're realizing now, more and more as we go along. So that's what's happening in Canada because of that part. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
Quick question here from Allison, because we're talking about jail and getting out. Is there any event or announcement that will spur the acknowledgement of the new reality? Asking out of curiosity, as many channelers are discussing an upcoming marker event.
A what event?
Marker event, you know, where
marker.
something's going to...
Well, you know, the thing is, we're getting so many events constantly. Now, we get caught up in the idea that we need to have something very powerful to shock. But look at it, one wave after another. It's like getting smaller and smaller and smaller and pushing, and getting more and more ridiculous. For what reason? So that we start to see it and say, hey, no more. So are we having something colossal at one point or another? There are things that are staged along the way that will rock things even further. But the thing is, nothing is carved in stone. We are flying step by step, moment by moment, what is necessary, what's not necessary. There's always a feedback that's going on. So yeah, some people may be channeling a lot of different things that may happen or intensities. Now, is it going to be 100%? No, nothing is. But at the same time, if it gets to a point where the movement is getting stagnated or slowing down, then we may need something bigger. So there are certain things, some planetary events, some other things that are kind of being prepped and simulated to see how it goes. But right now I can't say, well, this is what's going on. Now, one thing I can say is the energies are increasing. Yes, in one way or another, one activation or another. We're having different stages where it uplifts the ones that are on path already and lowers others in the sense so that they can go deeper into it, so they can choose to step out of it. So a lot of that going on. And, you know, there is a cutoff point eventually at the end of 2022 going into 2023, really, at this point in time where we say, okay, we're not supporting this any longer, so we have to do it. What is it going to take to get there? Well, it may require something intense. It may require certain things. I'm not going to say what they are because at this point, none of it is to be disclosed in a way because it is not confirmed that that's 100% the way it goes. It's not. And it's not there to put fear, or it's not about there saying, okay, I'll sit back and wait for that event before I go. Now, we are going through disclosure. Okay? That's what the theme is or has been. What does disclosure look like? You're going to get to see the systems. You're going to get to see the so-called fake authorities, rules, laws, religion, education, money. We get to see it clearer and clearer. We get to see that we have brothers, sister souls that are cooperating. Now, are they going to end up landing and doing whatever? No, that's going to happen at some point, but it's not a dependency for us to have that, for us to be able to shift forward. And we're not here to wait for a savior. We're not here to wait for, in some way or another, something to really shift us. Because the thing is, we've all agreed to one degree or another that we want to do the shifting ourselves, through ourselves. So this is why all of these other things are playing out. Now, of course, some of it will be in the big screen, meaning that you're going to see it collectively on the planet. Is there a potentiality where there's an elevated Gaia reaction, and the reaction is really a stimulation? Is there the possibility for having some really super intense volcanic, oceanic movements and whatever else? Yes, those are there as potential. To what degree? To be determined. The necessity to be determined. They're just there, and it's all helping us. Is there going to be a changeover of people and souls and so forth? Yes, that's already happening, but it can elevate even further along the way. So the point is, it's about listening and connecting with yourself, and then use that as your navigator. That's really the best way to do it. Okay. So the other things we need to look at is religions. Religions not only take authority, create an illusionary way that the world was designed, or the way that it needs to be mandated, that there's some deity of some sort that has power, that there are a set of rules on how to play the game, and that if you don't play the game correctly, you're going to go to some place or not go someplace, that in some way or another that you need to go and praise or whatever it is, some deity or some energies and so forth. Those are all illusionary. I know it's going to shock some people. It's illusionary. And so I know some people have said at one point or another, well, if I pray, I do this, certain things happen. Yes, it's kind of the carrot to dangle you. Say, okay, yeah, if I want to keep you locked up, I'm going to give you a little tidbit here so that you can continue to give power to it. But it's all illusionary. All of this never existed. Never, ever, ever, until the inverted matrix was put in. And the inverted matrix, and most of those so-called deities, if not all, in this case, I would say it is all, they're brother sister souls that have come in from other dimensions and so forth, and may have showed up in ships and whatever else, and saying, hey, I am your God, I am your authority, whatever else. Most of the time, that was just to keep everybody in check so that they would actually play that inverted game a little bit more deeper, right? So the whole idea that the religions are the savior, that the religion knows how the game of life is, that religion is, and so forth. I can tell you one thing. As much as that exists here, there are rarely any planets that would even give any power to some form of deity or so forth and see that there's a hierarchy or anything of that nature. That is absurd in a way. But I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I'm saying that it's not made real. Here it has been made real, and many are shifting. So what ends up happening? Most of us, to some degree or another, have given power to it at one point or another. And then notice what happens. It becomes, yeah, like what? This or that, whatever it is. It doesn't make any sense anymore because the program and condition starts to dissolve. You're not giving it any power. So are religions real? Yeah, because it's been made up to look that way, but it's not. It's not. And look at it. There are different ones. Is it one deity? Multiple deities? One deity after the other deity? Who's correct, who's not? Look at the game. There's all indications there how the game is played. Okay? Same thing with education. What's education about? It's about programming you to live a artificial reversed world or illusionary world. True education is learning through experience. It's through a sharing of consciousness without barriers of saying, this is the way it is. This is what we have discovered up to this point in time. How do we use what we've discovered? How do we proceed from what we discovered? The thing is, everyone is a contributor. Because you have to understand, first and foremost, your body is evolving. It's holding more frequency and its expression very differently as you continue going on, even though we've tuned a lot of it down and now that's reversing. You're talking about a human entity that is what you call earthbound soul that is evolving for each and every incarnation. So it's becoming wiser, it's using the game more expanded. But then you apply a multi-dimensional soul that is bringing in consciousness and experiences from other dimensions, from other playgrounds, from other interactions. How could you turn around and say, there's only one form of education, that everybody has to comply, everybody has to conform, this is the rules and this is how it's played? If you're still teaching everybody, for example, in the education world, to play a game a certain way, how much harder it is for us to create a new game or upgrade the game or anything of that nature. Many of us have heard, it's like a cookie cutter. It's like making everybody the same in a way so that we can still maintain that inverted world. So in fact, education, for most cases, is so unevolved, or so backwards, because it was all designed in that inverted matrix. It's so disconnecting from yourself that you got to realize and say, I'm not going to give power to that. I'm going to see how things really work. I'm going to tune in and bring in the higher consciousness and create an environment and world that does not match what's already existing, but is superseding and it is more advanced. Same thing with money. Money has never existed. It was plugged in the inverted world. For what? Separation, categorization, power, restriction, slavery, not allowing yourself to be there, the fact that you have to think you have to earn something or something of that nature. It's all been plugged in to keep you in that inverted world. And this is illusionary. Money is illusionary. Education is illusionary. Religion is illusionary. And yes, it is everything is illusionary, but those illusions are the parts that we are realizing that is no longer serving. Same thing with the medical world. Can you see what's going on? It's like pretty cool, eh? What are we looking at? Advancement is almost non-existent. We're still doing things that were designed and put together for a long time. Is it actually allowing us to flourish? Is it scaring the shit out of us? Is it in some way or another negating higher consciousness, negating other so-called supportive mechanism, negating further realizations and other ways of looking after things. So the illusionary world, that they are authority of your health, that is the only way. And if you go get alternative, what they call it, because most of alternative is not another version, just using more natural, but really going into the true. And so when you're talking about the medical system, if you're going to introduce something, you're going to make sure that it's something that's really, really powerfully supportive and say, okay, let's all get together and let's create that to support it, to move it forward in a big, powerful way. You were going to say something?
Yeah, since we're talking about education.
Yeah.
Jane is saying, just heard from my daughter that they are going to mandate children to take the jab before the kids go back to school. This is in Ontario, Canada, and could be as early as in June. What can we do as a collective apart from praying, staying in the moment, keep vibration high? Is there anything else? Children are our future.
Yeah.
Don't send them to school.
No, we're not playing with that. And you're not going to get angry. You're just going to say no. No, 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 no. Because many people will say no, and at this point in time make a very strong, bold statement of saying, hey, no, we are not supported. And if you're going to, I'm not going to go in through the educational system that you're mandating. We are choosing to create something very different. Now, we have to also understand, we've also made an agreement, and I'll just leak this out. The fact, if in any way or another, in your unconscious state, meaning that someone in an unconscious state gets so-called VID, then there is a backup provision to negate it later on. And when I say negate it, just hang on a sec, we're having a technical issue here again. Anyways, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. I was saying
about the vaccine, saying no.
Oh, right.
Children.
Yes. So in essence, with the children, if they get caught up in the whirlwind to kind of show things with their parents, finally to be able to say, hey, we have freedom of how we're going to do certain things. And if they get caught up in that the kids that are going to be playing a very active role and have to shift into be what we call the future, then there is intervention that is being arranged so that whatever's put in that has restricted them can be reversed energetically and so forth. So it's not a total lost cause, but at the same time, you want to be really, for that to be active for us, is saying, hey, we're not supporting this, we're not going down that path, and that's it. So that's the part we need to understand and look at this point as we go through. So yes, if you're feeling that the kids, if that's a requirement, you say, no, it's not. If you can't get your children in there without that, then other arrangements, because there are other developments coming in where other parents are uniting and creating alternate way of doing the educational part. And I'm not saying, homeschooling or whatever it is, but there are other things that are unfolding along the way. But the thing is, the more people say, no, we're not going to do this or anything of that nature, then more it can't be sustained. It can't be supported, because it doesn't matter what a false, what do you call make-believe or so-called authority will not have any rights or capability to impose it to the same degree. Okay. Same thing with science when we're looking at science. So we've talked about money, medical science. Science is not rock solid. Trust me, it's not. You will know that science is still a discovery. And it's not only a discovery, it's upgrading and changing. The way things function are changing. So one of the things is we got to follow the science. Well, most of it is illusionary science. It's all dictated to create a certain experience or to dictate a certain control structure. That's one part. But the next part, we have to understand that we're always uncovering levels of science. We're also, as we're moving through the solar system and how we're moving through the galaxy and so forth, other discoveries. The operating system is changing. The codes of how things work and don't work are upgrading and changing all the time. So nothing is fixed. This is the thing we have to understand. It is not fixed. It's not restricted as we believe. So the thing is, science is always evolving. Science is always growing. New discoveries, everything else is always in motion. So you can't say this is how it works. Like, for example, some of the discoveries that you cannot create energies, okay, without using or transforming energies. That means I got to use fossil fuel to create electricity. I got to use fossil fuels for projection, or that chemistry works this way, or whatever it is. Yes, in that inverted world, that's how we made it believe, and we supported that. But in fact, that we're in a pool of energy. We can use lots of different things, and there are different technologies and different capabilities that have been there but have been restricted. So you can't say, well, the science is fixed. It isn't. It's always evolving, always expanding, always discovering. But are we allowing it in? That is the question. Are we putting in new discoveries? There are people and scientists and so forth that are discovering completely different things, totally opposed to what is the narrative idea of what science is or how things work, and it challenges even the ones that have discovered it 100 years ago, 50 years, or whatever it is, and proving that it doesn't work that way. But the thing is, we're still restricting it, and it's always being felt back into the educational system and so forth. So this is the thing. We have come to the realization that none of this stuff is fixed. All of it is fluid. Everything is always changing. Same thing with freedom. Free choice. And I won't go any further than that. Freedom and free choice. What does that mean? We have freedom. We always have a free choice. We're playing in a playground that doesn't look like it has that. And yes, we can have that experience, but we can also dissolve it. It's not like, I got to dissolve it and just disappear. Yes, you can do that, but most of us are not ready. So we want to say, okay, I have freedom and I can decide. So if you don't want to send your kids to school where they're mandating that, which makes, look at the ridiculousness of that alone. The ones that are least subject to it are the ones that are being mandated. The fact that they're taking the rights away, or at least making it look that way, what is it doing? It's stimulating parents, it's stimulating people to say, okay, enough is enough. We're not going to go there anymore. Forget it. We have the freedom. We tell you what to do. Really, it's the collective that says to the systems how it operates. It's not the other way around. These fictional authorities are not here to tell you how to do it. The collective, the collective is saying, hey, this is the roles we're playing. And if you're in that position, you do what we tell you to do, because what we're doing is to create an environment that supports all of us. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all that fast way. Okay, I think we're almost to the end here. This is the other thing here. The illusionary part that we have been living is what we believe of ourselves. That's another illusion. We're believing that we're just as human, that we have fallibilities, that we're limited, that in some way or another you have no say, you have no freedom, you believe that you are this position or that position, that you are this label or that label, that you are not able or you're good enough, not good enough. Those are beliefs of yourself. They're all illusionary, because you are more than that. And that's the realization that we're having more and more. So that's one of the things. Write out, who do you think you are? Take a look at it. I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, I'm this, I'm that, or, I'm a wounded or fragile person, or I'm a sick person, or I'm this or that. Those are all illusionary. They're experiences, yes, absolutely. They're experiences, but they're illusionary. When you come to the realization, hey, I'm none of that. I am pure source having this particular experience, and I can change my experience once I get to the point I'm done with it, or that whatever role I've played, I'm going to play it out more fully and then transform it. Guess what? You see it very differently then. That's the whole beauty of it. It changes it completely. So this is one of the illusionary parts. Is what we believe of ourselves. Something worth looking into. Okay. Continue to address your questions. Well, I'm tired now. I'm going. All right. So we get to play with your questions. Yeah, so some of it is carryovers from before.
Yep,
So
some of the questions are carryover.
Yes.
Some we've kind of, it seems like we've maybe talked about already, but we're just re-looking at a few things, mostly the ones around the vaccine, because it seems to be such a hot topic for people.
I don't understand why that would be a hot topic.
I know.
Why is not? Oh, yes.
Okay.
There we go. All right, so let's play.
Okay.
Let's play.
Second here. Okay. So this question. I just want to know that there will be some hope. I know you kind of talked about this earlier for the people who are vaccinated or will be, or they will be lost forever. And how can we see it's their choice when they have no real idea what's going on?
Yes. So the thing is, from a superconscious level, they have an idea of what's going on. They will do certain things to play a role. So they may accept to take the jab, okay, for them to display for other people. They may choose to do that for them to be restricted or to have a certain experience. Many of them may use it as an accentuated experience. Some will use it as a departure. Others may use it in a way just to really trigger others and to kind of reinforce the fact that, hey, we actually have the freedom to make a choice if we're going to support it or not. So everybody's going to have what they need when they need it. However, at the same time, we also have the opportunity to decide how that so-called V is going to play out within themselves and so forth. Now, once they finish playing the role, in essence, especially if they're just playing the role without the departure part or the accentuated part, then there is a provision, and that's why I was saying even with the kids, there is a provision that is being established where energetically it can negate anything that has been set up around that. But that is a choice and an option by each individual if they use it or not, or how it's going to influence them or not. So is it a lost cause? I would say no, but it can look that way for the ones that are choosing it to see it as a lost cause and also to follow through whatever's going on. Does it affect us? Yes. Are we in a vibration where you take it and it doesn't affect you in one way or another? No. Everybody's affected to some degree or another. There's very few that hold such a vibration that it's not effective. But then you have to look at it. If you have such a vibration, you wouldn't even be considering it unless you absolutely said, I'm going to do it to kind of play a role for my family. But at the same time, that choice is very restrictive because there are going to be many, many other role players. So you don't need to subject yourself to that experience. So you have to look at it. If I'm going there, is it because of fear or feeling disempowered or feeling that in some way if I don't do it, I don't have freedom, I can't do this or that? The thing is, it may look like that at the beginning. It may look like that now, but it's not. So is it a hopeless cause for the ones that don't know and are choosing to just to experience it temporarily and shift it? No, it's not. That wasn't the case before, but that's been introduced now as an opportunity. Is it launched yet? No. Go ahead.
Okay, this question somewhat similar, but
Mm-hmm.
a little bit different. This is an urgent question for any help on the vibrational level as to how to liberate us, me, my surroundings, family and friends, former clients from very powerful negative forces. It goes beyond our own means. Can you help in any way to free us of all this urgently and shift timelines into a benevolent situation? I feel danger of my life and many other people connected to me. Switzerland, living actually in south of France. I feel like many persons are dying or in great danger. This is an urgent call for help. What is possible? Now, this was an email that was sent to us, so I'm
Okay.
just throwing it in there.
Okay. Okay. Regarding that, there are going to be many that have chosen not to be on the planet. And the choices can change along the way, meaning that they choose to leave or not, or to go through an experience and then leave later on. So no one's going to leave and nobody's going to have an experience unless in some way or another they have decided to do so, and that is perfectly fine. The thing is, if you're afraid of your life, you're in very low, your vibration goes into fear and it's a lower vibration. And then you're going to have a lot of those experiences and you're not going to feel empowered either. So this is where true love comes in, where you feel true love for the game, true love for whatever is going on, and that will raise your vibration. So then you're not going to be feeling imposed or restricted or the fact that people, you know, you're going to see people that are dying, like you said, as they have chosen to exit out. Was it a mistake? Absolutely not. People are dying all the time and will choose to die maybe more effectively or much more than before, but that's because they've done their part and they no longer want to participate here or anything of that nature. It's not a mistake for any of that stuff. So the fact is, within yourself, is to connect with that higher vibration, because that will not only shift what you see and how deeply you're engaged, but you will have an appreciation and love for each individual. And it doesn't matter if it's family or whoever at this point, partners, you name it, or children or anything of that nature. You give them the power to be able to, or when I say give them power, you allow them to have their own personal experience, and you still hold that higher vibration. So whoever chooses what is fine. It's up to them. This is an offering, okay? This whole thing is an offering with the V, with the so-called, pandemic thing that was rolled out. That was an option for wake up. That was an option for exit too, or for intensified experiences. It's an offering, okay? It's up to us how we use it. It's there to be used one way or another. Okay? It's not something that was imposed. It looks that way. Absolutely, it looks that way. But look at what is created. Yes, it may have created much more polarity. Absolutely, no denying more polarity. But at the same time, guess what? It's been a very powerful wake-up call for many people. And as many other doors have opened up for not only moving and flourishing much more powerfully and getting to more self-realization and be able to access more higher aspects of yourself, but also for others that are just here to play a particular role to go into that heavy polarization and possibly leave anyways once they're done. Okay. So see everything with true love, pure love, I would suggest you watch the episode before this one, 77, to be able to kind of reinforce it even further. Go ahead.
Okay. Will we awaken to more of our abilities with these powerful energies? Is it already happening? At what point along the way can we see a big increase in our memory recall? Are there energies that will open this?
Yes, they're already happening. More and more of these energies are coming in. This is why people are becoming more aware and more experiencing more self-realization. They're actually seeing more opportunities. They're actually seeing more of their freedom. As for the other gifts, to be able to do certain things that they find restrictive now, to not only change their bodies, but also to do some of the other things, in fact, increasing not only memory. But the thing is, the memory part will be very, very, I wouldn't say selective, but in essence, your focus on the memory would be in the actual experience and not the labels, the definitions, and so forth that, you know, most people apply to as being something traumatic or anything of that nature. So yes, it is happening already. It's accentuating. Each and every wave will be very specific for people to have various experiences within themselves, meaning that some will not require as many bursts to get into that higher level. Some already are experiencing more and more of it already. Others may have to go through more waves. Yes, we are being supported for our own self-realizations, more of our capacities. And a lot of these energies that are coming in are also re-stimulating, reactivating our DNAs so that they come more online, and that actually creates a completely different environment, reactivate other skill sets and so forth, even unlock our access to our mind, but also unlock the capacities of our brain.
Okay, thanks. All right. If we are manifesting a person to show up in our reality and have worked through internal objections, and based on the current energy waves, when can we expect specific persons showing up in this reality?
You're the only one that can decide that. Now, the only thing as I want to say is that the decision is not from a conscious ego mind. You may turn around and say, okay, I would like such and such a person to be in my life. You can make that statement. You can make that degree or decree. How do you say it?
Decree?
Decree, yes. You can make that decree and so forth. And you can say, well, this is what it's there for, why I prefer that. You can put that preference, you can write it out, do whatever it is, then let it be. Okay? Because the one thing you want to notice is if you're waiting for it to accentuate your life, then that's an obstacle. If you're feeling that in one way or another that it's necessary, that's an obstacle. If you feel in some way or another that that's the only way you can experience more of yourself or anything of that nature, or the fact that you still have a feeling that of loneliness or disconnect or something of that nature, then you want to address those stories, programs, and belief systems, because those are the only reason that it's being held off in this case is for you to clear out all of those things. Because a lot of times what happens is someone coming into your life at a certain point in time can end up being a major distraction. And this has been acceptable at one point, may not be acceptable at this point in time. So a lot of people are saying, you know, when is certain things going to come about, you know, could be financial, could be relationships, could be certain other alignments, say property, whatever it is. It's all going to work out the way it needs to work out, what's best for you. So you can say, well, this is what my preference is right now because this is how I see it, but then live life as it already exists. Meaning the fact that if you think it has to fill a void, you get rid of the void. You clear out the void so you become whole without the individual there. And then the person will come along, or the situation, the resources, whatever else will come along to enhance whatever's there, but it's not a necessity.
Could you please talk about the 144,000 who had the original God consciousness would be the only ones making it through this transition? With all the healing access that is coming through, has this number changed?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That is no longer. Many more souls have decided that they are going to participate and be part of the transformation that's going on. Because there was a change of direction to involve more parties, to also involve the fact of Gaia's involvement and everything else that is participating. So those numbers have changed quite a bit. Already there has been a shifting into like 550 million that are already engaging in the fifth dimensional consciousness, even though that they're visiting or organic fifth dimension, they're also engaging in organic third, but also playing in inverted stuff here and there. But eventually solidifying 100%. But then there's also the ones that are organic 3D that will have the experience of the 3D, organic 3D, which is not the reverse stuff. And then eventually many of those will go into the 5D and so forth. So that whole thing about 144,000 and all of that stuff, that's old, and that's not really where we're at anymore.
Okay. I had cranial osteopathy session, and my doctor saw new tissues in my body like information. In 30-plus practice, 30-year practice, he never saw it. Did we get new strains of DNA activated?
Yes, yes. We're all having our DNAs to some degree or another activated depending on what your readiness is. So you will notice as the DNA, new information comes in, your genetic encodements upgrade, the way your body expresses starts to change. There's so much that goes on as more of that becomes online. Not only that, because a lot of the DNA is not stagnant. It's continued to evolve, but they were just offline, so they wouldn't be able to be expressed in this human form. So as they're coming in, more of that is coming into play. The fact is how our bodies represent themselves and so forth is also upgrading. You'll notice that a lot of the stuff that we've given power in illness and whatever else is also changing at this point in time. So there's a lot going on, and the new codes and new energies coming in are just bringing those back online. Plus there are new genetic encodement instructions coming into play that are also going to be, that is already playing a role.
I've been hearing a lot lately about the financial world. When is this supposed financial crash to occur? What happens to the money we have now? Should we remove our saved money that is at financial institutions and keep cash, or invest in a property?
That's a tough one, because I'm no expert in that. Yeah. However, from a higher perspective, if you're putting fear into it, then that plays a particular role. As for the so-called crash or adjustments that's going on, it's already in the works, so it's already happening. If right now from the simulations we've seen, there is a certain restrictions and so forth at this point in time, it will only play out temporarily. But again, you want to make sure you feel comfortable with the way things are, and then just use the guidance. You don't want to make a choice, say, I'm going to go invest in land, or I'm going to go do this because of fear, or I need to take it out of the institutions and so forth. You don't want to imply fear. However, if you feel guided to move it from one location, I guess you want to call it, or whatever, I can't think of the right word at the moment, but from one let's use location, to apply it to something else, and it feels to do it. You want to make sure you're doing it because you feel guided by not reacting from a fear of losing it or something of that nature. Some of the things that are playing out may restrict us from, and again, it's not 100%, but it's already in the works. Is it going to happen? It is already, in a way, happening right now, and is going to continue to kind of shape that way unless it changes. You may want to have a certain amount of it liquid form, in the sense of cash, whatever you want to call it, because you may want to use that as a bridging temporarily, but it's not a requirement because others don't have that, because the thing is you still are governing how you experience things. Really, it's what you feel within yourself. The so-called crash, the so-called realignment and all of that stuff, it's kind of designed in a way where it can shake up a little bit, but at the same time it's more of a transitional part. There's a little bit more of a balancing and so forth, but at the same time, how it all is going to shape 100% is being determined day by day. So some of this stuff was going to happen already some time ago, but it keeps getting somewhat delayed or changes, indications, and so forth, because there were so many other things that are playing out, and not to create a shock. For example, every time something of that nature comes in, it does paralyze people in what we call fear or something of that nature. So we are collectively, all of us, to some degree or another, depending on how much involvement you have, to monitor if this is introduced or this rolls out, how far does it go? Does it actually accentuate us, or is there a slight dip before we launch like crazy, or is it going to take us right deep into the dip and get lost in there for a period of time? Because then are we going to stimulate massive survival, or are we going to create only a certain amount of a survival, and many others are going to see that we actually have the power to change it? Because you have to understand, the world itself, as much as it looks like there's procedures and steps that need to be taken to shape something, we actually do it energetically and through our own viewpoint, how we see things, because we're shaping the world. It's just a light show. It is a video game, but the video game is connected to our so-called pulse of how we navigate and design the game itself. So it's always shaping in one way or another.
A psychic told me that my husband is an extra. I don't know if that is true or not. He's an atheist. Do all extras only operate through their egos? Do they have guides?
No. So yes, you can have a partner that's an extra. You can have children that's an extra. You can have family members that are an extra. You can have other people around you that are extras. Yeah, the ego may be the main driver at this point in time, but it does have an innate consciousness within the body. I mean, our bodies, which is an expression of Gaia at this point in time. So there is a certain level of navigation from that. Of course, there's a programming aspect of it, like ego, whatever you want to call it at this point, the artificial so-called intelligence. But at the same time, as much as they may not have a specific signature, unique signature, what do you call it, human entity, which is an earthbound soul, or a multidimensional soul, they're still connected to the collective, and they're also connected to, say, the collective human entity, and they are connected to certain souls that are interacting. So an extra will connect with the souls that it's interacting with, so there is a feedback of sort. So is there a guidance system? Yes, it's not very specific in the same fashion, but there is a certain level of guidance system, and the fact that what they're exposed to or other active roles that are not extras are actually working with them. You may not be conscious of it, but you may be working with your partner. It's the same thing as pets. They don't have specific signatures, but at the same time they'll link to your soul and your human entity, even though they have a collective soul of sorts that it's shared upon, but it creates a very intimate connection with the what they call master, or the person that they've agreed to participate and play together with.
Okay. Last year, my soulmate, who I love and intend to settle with, asked, "You want to swap realities?" Then I got scared later when I got to know he wasn't my twin soul, but someone else. Was I consciously swapped?
Consciously or unconsciously swapped?
I'm going to say unconsciously, because if you don't know if you've been swapped, then I guess it would be unconsciously. And I don't know, can you get swapped without permission from your soul or anything?
No, it's not possible. If you want to change, you could be offered a different reality, and in any particular fashion at this point in time. It's up to you what you decide to do or not to do, what reality you want to play. Yes, okay, maybe the fear came in and you backed off and didn't choose to go there. Again, twin soul, soulmate, soul family, or just another soul. Doesn't matter. It can offer whatever it offers, But it's up to you what you choose to do with it, if you choose to engage in it or not, or how it's going to go. There is no difference in saying, well, it's got to be my soulmate. We're offered that from the collective. We're offered from many, even our guides and so forth, what we do and don't do along the way in regards to what direction. So the swapping part, for example, if we're talking about soul swapping, that can happen. And normally you will notice a difference from a conscious level, that there's something that changed within you. What does that mean? That means that your multidimensional soul may have chosen to go somewhere else and take on another physicality, or be in non-form, and then another one stepped in. And the one that steps in will basically bring their realization and so forth into the mix of what that particular experience. Anyone that's experienced a soul swapping, or in this case a drop-in because the one soul left, you will notice, if you pay attention, you can see where there is some changes that have occurred. But, you know, at the same time, that's not imposed by someone else, and no one can impose it on you. It's up to the individual souls. Now, if so-called twin soul or whatever it is, or soul family makes that offering, it's still up to the soul that decides if it's going to participate or not. So that's really what we're looking at. Was there something else you wanted to add around that, Kimberly? No? Okay.
Okay, next question. Since it is known that in love relationships, most of our actions, attractions, likes, dislikes, etc., sadly come from our subconscious, how can we deal with that? Is it enough to call our highest love, as you said before, or is there anything else we can do not to be driven by it?
Okay, well, first thing is realizing that, see, the thing is to realize that you can be run by, your belief systems, your subconscious, not only belief systems, but programming and ideas and concepts that we've accepted as a way of life. So what ends up happening is people make choices based on the fact of what their programming may say, or their patterns may be of this point. So instead of what we call true love. So realizing that that opportunity is there, and then whenever you feel drawn to someone or something like that, you can tune in. And first of all, like the thing is, you can say, okay, and I've said this before, but you can ask your soul to fully embody you, activate the highest level of home frequency that your body can tolerate, and or in this case the highest frequency that can be utilized in the body. Ask your source essence to go to the highest level that you can embody, and you can activate within yourself. Say, I want to activate fully my true, or in this case pure love, and feel that love, and you can engage the body to it. And then at that point in time, say, okay, now that I'm in state, I choose to experience this pure love with whoever comes into my path, and how I organize it, and so forth. And then you will be able to see if certain people will step in. Now, of course, you're going to have any relationship, you're going to have anybody coming in that somehow, one way or another, serve, either to discover the part of you that is not totally aligned anymore, or a part of you to enhance whatever it is. It's all going to be perfect. So you can make the choice. I choose to be in a partnership where I can just be in my true state, and while playing in pure love. And then you're going to have it. Love in its pure state sees everything as love. But where you engage, or what you participate in, who you play with, that's a choice that you will make as it feels aligned for you, because you bring any and all partners into your life for one role or another. It's not the fact is, I bring in another partner. So some people repeat where they're having certain partners play a very particular role. That is only to show you that you're still playing in that operating system, that program is still active, so that you can go through the clearing part of it. That's all.
Okay. Franco spoke in the last episode, 77, about soul swap. The understanding of my recent change a few years ago is a bit different. I got the clear information that I had experienced all what I've come for here in the first place. So I had the option to leave this plane. But instead of leaving the body and to be reborn again in human form, my next future life, I just upgraded to my next life within the same body and with the same soul. It feels like my guides or spiritual team have changed, but not the soul. I know other people who talk about this in the same terms to add on future lives without leaving the body. Is this a wrong or incomplete understanding, or another version of what is available to us now besides the soul swap? Or is it the same as soul swap, or just an upgrading in consciousness and extension of the soul plan?
Okay. These opportunities have been plugged in more of, so you have more options, for say. So the soul swap is not the only. Even if the soul says, "Hey, listen, we're done playing this game, and I'm okay leaving," but at the same time, the soul can say, "Okay, let's take a look at the opportunity to be able to upgrade the experience, bring in certain energies to upgrade it, create some changes so that it can actually doesn't have to go through the rebirthing process or dropping into another body, because at that point in time it already has some experiences in that regard." So when it makes a new choice, at times your guides will change, because the guides were there to go through one path, but they are of a different frequency and they have a different agreement that they made. So because you're choosing to go to renew it and upgrade it, then a new set of guides can come in. Usually when that changes, your frequency changes, your access of consciousness changes, your soul actually unbridles itself a little bit more, so that it actually allows more of that awareness to come into play. Sometimes though that may include a swap in the human entity part, but that's not as common. So yeah, you have the option to upgrade and stay in the current body without having what we call multidimensional soul swap, or a human entity, or in this case earthbound soul, to swap. You can go through the upgrade, yes.
Okay, so I have just a few more on my page. Do you want to just finish them up, or what do you want to do?
Do we finish those pages?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's do a few more, just because we're not meeting up next week.
Okay.
But we don't want to go too far.
Okay. Will cryptos survive the shift? I don't know if you know how to answer that, or if you have the qualifications to answer that, or if I think it's similar to what you're saying about the money stuff.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because when it comes to the monetary system, even cryptos and stuff like that, they are, they're a different form. It is more transparent in the sense of who's governing what. You can see what's going on. It's not like underground. But at the same time, a lot of them have been created still to perpetuate polarity on unbalanced part of it. So you could see, well, if you were in there, then you've scored it. You've scored riches and whatever else. Eventually, with the shifting, it will change. It will change. They may become all obsolete. I know that it's not 100% been decided, but the energies within it, because most of those cryptos were all created within lower vibrations, even the more famous ones. But at the same time, the energies are changing there. But the taking advantage and control of the power it provides and things like that will change along the way. Will it survive? It won't stay in the same form, that's for sure. Everything is going to transition, and even this whole transitioning into gold back or something of that nature, that again is just a bridging, because what is gold? What is silver? that is something that, you know, collectively say, okay, this has value and has this much value, and the value is going to change up and down and so forth. And just because we're backing it up with a mineral that we've deemed as valuable, that somehow it makes the currency real. So what they call fiat currency, gold-backed currency, or cryptocurrencies, they're all made up. They're all made up. They're all fictional. We can choose to play with it or not. It's really up to us. But the thing is, if it causes restrictions and limitations, then, and priority, who has it, who doesn't have it, then it's not going to serve through the transition. So if we're talking down the road when the transition is gotten a little deeper, none of it will exist. So will it survive? No. Will it survive the next little while? It's going to go up and down, change here and there until the bridging is no longer required at this point. So this is the thing. There will be no currencies. There will be no so-called money eventually. But it's going to take a while, and it's going to be in transition, and it's going to have bumps and bruises. Remember, or keep in mind, that money is going to be used as a tool to stimulate polarity and also to move out of it. So it's still serving to some degree or another, but at the same time, the level of restrictions will, you know, continue to fall apart.
Okay, just two more, okay?
Okay.
What about all the court cases going on all over the world? Will the truth come out soon, and will this shift all?
The truth is leaking out. Yes, you could say a lot of the mainstream stuff is coming up. The fact that they're taking these steps with the courts, the fact that more people are realizing that this is not, and you know, the thing about legal and illegal and whatever else, you know, is also fictional. But at the same time, the reason the court system is even happening at this point is because a lot of people are not ready to see it as a fact that it just dissolves, right? Because they still want to give power to what it looks like and whatever else is going on. So with the transparency and the disclosure of sort, more and more of it is coming to what we call the mainstream, meaning that more and more of it is coming to the surface. And what's coming to the surface? What really is playing out to kind of wake up people, and then realizing that, hey, we don't have to play it that way. And it's not so much what the legal system decides, it's what we collectively decide rather than the other way around. Because this is the thing, is, you know, we have to fight legally. And yeah, we have, you know, marine law, we have, what do you call it, natural law and so forth. There's a lot of different things. But those are all fictional too, in a sense. We may agree to apply certain things in our experience and use it for whatever it is, but it's really none of it is there to play. Because from a higher perspective, if you're looking at any other planet that has evolved at this point in time, they don't have any of that. First of all, they don't have currency. Second of all, they don't have legal systems and so forth. They have guidelines, which the guidelines are upgrading, but the guidelines are basically there to support the collective in what is most to keep things moving. They're not so much the legal stuff. So the legal stuff that's playing out is just kind of showing all of those restrictions that were there, really. But eventually, that won't even be a necessity. Is it coming to the surface? Yes, absolutely. Every single day it's coming to the surface, and it's going to come more and more to the surface because it cannot be restrained any longer as we go along. But the thing is, people can't go and say, well, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, or that, you know, you have to demonize, because that's one thing we need to understand, that we're not here to demonize anything.
Okay, last question. What is the most common incoming energy force that causes body symptoms? Solar, earth energy as an example. Lately, energy has been wild on the body.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's both. I mean, we're getting energies.
I don't know if my mic is on for that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay, just repeat it.
I'm just repeating the question because I don't know if I had my mic on. So what is the most common incoming energy force that causes body symptoms? Solar, earth energy as an example. Lately, energy has been wild on the body.
Yes. So the energies that are coming in are transforming our bodies. They're shifting the ratio from carbon, silicate, and crystal. The more crystallized you become, more information it creates. A lot of the sensorial experiences that we may have in the body, which can feel brutal, symptomatic and all of that, is basically the body changing. But it doesn't have to be painful. But the thing is, there's a lot of blocks and barriers, old patterns, locked up emotions. There's different rigidities, say changes that have occurred by our exposures, not only from the artificial energies and so forth, but also about what we've been consuming and so forth. So because it wants to create a beautiful platform of higher vibration, when it's stirring up those things, it can feel accentuated in the intensity and can feel brutal, if you want to call it that. So you're going to have pains coming up and nausea. May feel uncomfortable. You may have to sleep a lot. You may feel that you can't consume food or something like that. These are all parts and parcel of it. That is, part of it is coming from what Gaia is offering as the upgrade, but it's also from our own solar system. We have two suns. The one sun you don't actually see, and I've talked about it, but sometimes you get a little glimpse of it depending on how the light is reflected. That energy is coming in. We're also getting energies from the galaxy. The positioning of planets as we're moving through the galaxy is doing that. The portals that are opening up are doing that. As the grid lines change, they're doing that. As the energies of polarity, and not polarity, what do you call it? The polar energies of the planet itself are shifting. All of them are contributing, and some contribute more than others to specific individuals or people, being yourselves. So, because even the moon itself does reflect a certain energy which is different than what it used to. Not only the magnetic field, but also what is reflective. So it's kind of coming from everywhere in a sense. Unless you feel compelled to go get, checked, and some people have, and then found out that they say, well, there's nothing wrong with you, but, allow this to move through you, and then see what it comes up for you. If there's any fears, if it comes up any stories, if it comes up anything that in one way or another surfaces by it, because as the energy and your vibration starts to change within the body, you're going to have lower vibrating parts of it coming to the surface, and it could be locked in trauma, could be locked up emotions. And a lot of times when that's freeing up, it can feel, because we may have had an experience, say, physically or in our thing, and we've locked it into our body. But we've kind of covered it up. We're not paying attention to it. But now these energies are resurfacing all of that so that it can actually be purged. So you may have those ache and pains, or you may have those so-called intensities that you may have experienced before that got locked in, that may present. And now it may feel a little bit different because of the fact that the energies are different, and it may display a little bit different, but it's coming through. So it's coming from many, many different sources. Each of the sources apply very differently or somewhat differently for different people. That's why some of the waves people feel very impacted of it. Other waves people don't feel impacted by it the same way. Some people may act out a little crazier in a way because of it. And others may feel more grounded because of it. So there's a lot of different ways that it's going to express through physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're good. That's it for today.
All right.
You get to have a rest now, honey.
Okay. So what I wanted to mention, everybody, we're not having an episode next Tuesday. We are going... Or Tuesday?
2 Tuesdays.
Is it 2 Tuesdays?
Yeah, because we're leaving on a Tuesday.
Oh, right.
2 Tuesdays in a row.
Okay, so it'll be 2 Tuesdays in a row that we're not going to be doing an episode. Because we are going to Sedona, Arizona, for the Zoology Fest. So while we're there, there's no guarantee that we're going to have, well, first of all, we won't have the setup to do it, but we can't guarantee we're even going to have a strong enough internet signal to do it and so forth, unless we're imposing on other people's. So we won't have, for the next 2 weeks, we won't have episodes. So I just wanted to let you know that. We have tons of resources already there that we can review. Just because you listen to it once does not mean that because when you listen to it again, it can trigger some pretty powerful opportunities for you to experience shifts that you weren't quite ready at the time. So yes, please go back to the resources. If you want to find it an easier way to get to it without going through the Facebook part, which sometimes can be a little challenging. I know we have the Facebook group Advancing Consciousness Series, but we also have a YouTube channel called Advancing Consciousness Series. Also, usually those are kind of all lined up. You know, they're not scattered because there's not other things being posted on there. So it's a little bit streamlined, so you can look at all the different episodes, especially if you go to the tab under videos. So wherever you've been watching it, usually if it's on Facebook, you'll see that you can go to also view it on YouTube. When you get onto that page, if you click the Advancing Consciousness little thing at the bottom, not quite at the bottom, but just underneath the video, it'll take you to the channel itself. And then if you click the channel part where it says videos, you can see there's probably 130 plus videos in there at this moment. So you can kind of choose the one that you feel guided to watch. So that's that. Thank you again. If you feel you want to join the community, in the description we have a link for you to get onto our community mailing list of sorts. We don't bombard you with that. We always appreciate your support, and I really am grateful for all the support that we have been receiving here and there along the way. Some have been really generous, and I really appreciate that, and it's very helpful for us because this is all we mainly do. I mean, we're working on other levels of content that's coming forth, but we have a link for you to contribute through PayPal. We welcome it. It's very supportive for us, and it's very beneficial of that. And if you want to check out any of the, what do you call it? Oh, workshops, there's a link for that. And then also in there is, if you're still debating and deciding if you want to join us at Zoology Fest, there's a link for that also in the description. So yeah, hopefully we get to meet in person. And if you can't go in person at the Zoology Fest, it is also available online, so you can watch it live streamed. There's a lot that's going to be there. And yeah, let's go from that. So we'll see you in third week, I guess.
Couple weeks. I don't know
Yeah,
the date.
Yeah, we don't know the dates, but it'll be in June. Let's
Yeah,
put it this way. It'll be after the 4th of June. So the 4th of June, I think, is like Friday or something. Yeah, because we arrived back on the 4th. So it will be the following Tuesday after that. So what is that word? 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th, okay. June the 8th. So we'll see you June the 8th, and or in person, or anyways. Have a blast. Thank you, and we'll see you again.